Hi, everybody. This is Rob Fagan. I'm an adjunct professor for emergency management for Tulane University and Pikes Peak State College, making a video for my colleagues at Wheaton College. On this video, we will be discussing the categorization of disasters and emergencies. This is a very interesting topic to me because I feel that most of the time, academically, we have been led astray to the over categorization of emergencies. And this does us no favors when we're talking about to public and private officials about disasters and how we prepare for, mitigate against, to respond to, and recover from these various disasters. I personally like just two main categories. I prefer human caused as opposed to man made. Very few emergencies are actually created to be an emergency unless you're a terrorist or somebody causing harm, right? So I like human caused. I think of it this way: if a human were not involved, would it have happened? Would you have had a hazardous material spill without some human involvement? No, you wouldn't have. So that is human caused, right? And we get away from this over gendering of things if we just go ahead and say humans as opposed to man or women caused. So if we say human caused, that's that one broad category. The other one, natural disasters, I like it. It happens. Nature has caused it, and we can just leave it right there. But if we go back to the substrata and the subcategorization of all this stuff, I know people need to describe things in order to present them and understand them. And so I understand the need to do it. But for emergency managers, we want to keep things simple because we're talking to senior leaders and officials about creating budgets, about creating plans, and we want to be as direct and concise as possible when we're categorizing and discussing these things. But in the kind of over categorization category, if we look at human caused, I said before we can call it man made, right? Um, Human caused, but we can divide that into technological. We can call some of it intentional or unintentional. Some human caused disasters might be biological, right? But then that gets into the natural disaster category as well. So, which one is it? Biological, human caused. And then in the humanitarian international space, there are even other words. Sometimes there are complex um, coordinated disasters or complex humanitarian emergencies. Those types of words have been used. And when they get used, and they will be used in your environment, you really do have to ask people, what is it that you're talking about? What is the scope and the depth of what you mean when you say complex humanitarian emergency? What is that? So if we go to the other side, we go back to natural disasters. And again, I like one clean word, but some people will subcategorize them so we know exactly what we're talking about. And they'll call some of it geological, call some of it meteorological, call some of it hydrological, if there's water involved, or um, climatological is another one that fits into this category. And again, biological, depending on what happened, right? But truth be told, there are very few disasters that are mono disasters. Most emergencies are poly crises, right? Multiple things cause them. For example, you have a hazardous material spill because of a flood that was further caused by a hurricane, right? So very little of this is clean and has one definition. You're always going to have complex emergencies that involve other things. Most of these things come in twos and threes. As someone who designs and we just don't know what's going to happen because as someone who designs exercises for a living, primarily for the federal government, I can tell you, had I designed an exercise that started off with an earthquake, which led to a tsunami, which led to a nuclear meltdown at an energy plant, my boss would have said, "Hey, disaster Dan, ratchet this stuff back. No one can believe this. It's just too much. It's over the top." Yet that's what we know happened in the Japanese triple disaster, right? We had all three of those. So which one is that? No, it's a combination of everything because it's a poly crisis and it's multiple effects of cascading effects of downrange hazards that happen after one hazard, then another incident, and so on and so forth. So hopefully this helps the discussion. Again, I like clean things, human caused versus natural disasters, but then you will see all the other categorizations out there in the literature. And we really have to ask each other as emergency managers, when words like this come up, what is it that you're talking about? So we have clear definitions and can work and plan cleanly and concisely. Thank you very much and have a crisis free rest of your week.